meth addiction, polygamy, and assassination for hire are not words that you usually hear associated with tiger conservation, but they are very much at the center of the outrageous Netflix documentary series Tiger King. Tiger King debuted in March, and it seems like everybody's talking about it right now. It's quite a story. It focuses on this very colorful cast of characters who are owners of roadside zoos that feature tigers, other big cats, and other forms of wildlife, and often offer petting opportunities with tiger cubs. At the center of this is a zoo owner named Joe Exotic. He has a vendetta with Carol Baskin, the owner of Big Cat Rescue, a sanctuary, and there's so much going on that and so much weird human drama in this that it's very easy to lose sight of the tigers. Tigers are not native to North America, where these zoos are. Tigers once roamed across the continent of Asia. As recently as 100 years ago, there were an estimated 100,000 tigers in the continent, but that sadly is not the case anymore. Tigers' range across Asia has shrunk dramatically, and at this point, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature estimates that there are between maybe 2,100, 3,100 tigers in the wild in just a handful of countries. By comparison, there are thought to be about 5,000 tigers in zoos. Not all of these are accredited zoos. So this is one of the things that is not really explained in Tiger King, is that there's a very, very big difference between zoos that are accredited by reputable organizations that actually help to manage and monitor endangered populations and work hand in hand with conservationists to preserve endangered species in the wild, and the type of roadside attractions that you see in Tiger King, where cubs are offered up for petting and tigers are bred without there being any oversight for which lineages are bred, and you even see these weird hybrids that they call ligers, which are a cross between lions and tigers, which obviously don't exist in the wild and could not survive in the wild. On camera, many of these zoo owners in Tiger King talk about how much they love tigers, they love big cats, and how the work that they're doing is actually good for tigers because it raises public awareness and that actually benefits tigers in the wild. Well, I actually talked to leading scientists and experts with some of the major conservation organizations in the world, and they all agree that is bull. It's crap. It's just crap. What these people are doing is not benefiting tigers, and in fact, actively harms tigers in the wild. Not to mention how bad it is for the tigers that are presumably in their care. So I spoke to experts with the Wildlife Conservation Society, with the World Wildlife Fund, and with Pantera, which is a global wildcat conservation organization. And they were all pretty clear that the type of zoos that were featured in Tiger King are unregulated and unaccredited, which means that they don't answer to any single organization or any single agency in terms of how they take care of their cats, where they acquire their cats, and how they breed their cats. And they're also under no obligation to contribute in any way to ongoing scientific research. And these are all things that are very much part of the mission of an accredited zoo. For example, zoos that belong to associations like the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, they have to show that they are following prescribed breeding programs for their captive animals to make sure that the animals are genetically healthy, and that potentially in situations where captive animals could be reintroduced in the wild, that those animals would be healthy and would be able to survive. And that is absolutely not the case for unaccredited zoos like the ones in Tiger King. Nobody is tracking who's breeding which tigers to which, and which is how you're ending up with these hybrids like ligers and white tigers, which are also the product of selective breeding that is managed by people. And accredited zoos also, in addition to following these very strict breeding guidelines, they also have to demonstrate that they are doing public education initiatives to raise awareness about endangered species and about the plights of these animals in the wild, and also what is being done to preserve them. And they also have to contribute either financially or through actively participating in research to look to mitigate the threats to animals in the wild, because obviously breeding animals in captivity is it's one way to preserve a species, but ideally conservationists want to preserve species in the wild, and there's no reason why tigers can't breed in the wild and maintain their own numbers. The big problem is that human activities are interfering with the tiger's ability to do that, because people are encroaching on their lands. There's habitat loss across all of the ranges where tigers currently live, and poaching, especially for tigers. Poaching is a huge problem because tiger body parts are very highly prized for remedies and folk medicines, and there's a big demand for them on the black market. And that is actually one very important way that the captive tiger populations and the zoos that are unregulated are actually actively harming tigers, because there is no central agency that any of these zoos have to answer to. There are no records of what's happening to all of these tigers, and what's very likely happening is that when these tigers die, their parts are still valuable, and so it's possible that many of them are being funneled into the black market after their deaths. And what this just does is this perpetuates the cycle of creating a need for supporting the need for the demand for tiger parts, which then encourages more poaching, which endangers the few tiger populations that are still wild. With so much human drama in Tiger King, the tigers almost take a back seat, and that's really unfortunate, because clearly tigers evoke a very powerful response in people. They are incredible animals, and they're also very emblematic of how much we are losing as the wild spaces and as species around the world disappear because of human activity. But if you love tigers, then the way to show that appreciation is not by shelling out money for photo ops with cubs or at one of these sketchy roadside zoos. There are conservation organizations like Pantera, like the World Wildlife Fund, like the Wildlife Conservation Society that are doing active work to protect and preserve tiger populations in the wild. And donations there, sending your money there, will do so much more good than shelling something out for a photo op with a cub, or putting it into a zoo that clearly does not have tiger welfare at the top of its list.